Welcome to the Fabulous Fifties and Beyond. I'm Jim Pollard, co-host with my wife Jeanetta. Today we have with us Brother Tim Cole, who's Director of Missions for the Blood River Baptist Association. We're going to be talking about some of the mission work, some of the mission opportunities around the area, a way that you yourself can get involved. You stay tuned and we'll be right back.
And he'd say, go with what you got. Start from where you are. Give it your best shot. Keep reaching for that star. Get in the race. Keep your own pace. Keep moving and never stop. Just go. Go with what you got.
Welcome back. I'm Jim Pollard with my wife Jeanetta. And today we're going to be talking with Brother Tim Cole, who is Director of Missions of the Blood River Baptist Association. Brother Tim, good to have you with us today. And I know that you were involved in a mission this year. This was your first time to go to that particular one.
Trip, yes, sir.
Right. And we thought it was real interesting if you would just share something with us about that. Jeanetta thought, man, you and two other guys cut 15 ricks of wood in 2 or 3 days for those people. Tell us some of this, a little bit of background and what's going on up there.
Well, about 20 years ago, there was a young man who had had a hunting accident and it caused him to go blind. And for a little while, he was bitter about that situation, and he finally asked God. He said, God, he says, why did you do this to me? And it revealed to him that he wanted him to create a place for blind students to be able to have recreation. And so they told him to go to Eastern Kentucky, and when they got there, he got donated 900 acres of land in the mountains for this. But in the process of all of this, in the last 10 years, they've created an atmosphere so that students can come and hunt and fish and do all kinds of recreation on this property. But while they're there, this gentleman shares the gospel to them. But it's amazing because this trip itself is a trip that you're not going and doing the witnessing. You're going to provide help to the missionary.
And what some of the things that you do in providing this help?
Well, whatever's needed. That's what's so great about it. You go to the mission trip, and when you go, you ask him what is needed at that moment. And like you said earlier, this time that we went, he was preparing for the winter time, and they live on the property, so they burn wood. And me and 2 other guys, we cut and split and stacked 13 rick of wood in 3 days. We sure did. But he is a missionary service corps missionary. And the difference between him and just what we call a missionary, everything that is given to him is privately funded. It's nothing coming from the International Mission Board or anything like that. So whatever mission teams come in is what he is provided for on a yearly basis for his ministry. But one of the things that's fascinating is that we actually go and build deer blinds or deer stands so that blind students can hunt. And the first question is asked me, well, how do they do that? But you'll have to see these deer stands because they're not like the ones you and I would build to hunt with. And they're big enough boxed in buildings that we build so many feet up off the ground that they have to have wheelchair ramps in case they're in wheelchairs. But at the front of this building is a notched out little board, and the individual can place his gun barrel in those notches, and so someone who can see stands behind him. A deer comes out into the field and he says move it 2 or 3 notches, pulls the trigger, and he's able to kill a turkey or a deer or something like that, and where otherwise they wouldn't be able to. They've built a barn on the property, and the barn is used for an equestrian ministry, and they have horses there. And they've got a track in the top of it with a bungee cord on it so that blind students can actually ride horses and not get, hurt. But everything that's there is geared toward helping blind students, boys, girls, men and women, to come on the property to be able to be ministered to.
That's phenomenal. I had never heard that story.
Well, and what's so great about it, Jeanetta, is that even though this gentleman can't see, his wife and his parents help him with this. And technically they're his eyes. But he's got this huge vision, and they've been there almost 15 years, and they're just now in the process of doing the ministry itself because it had to be up to code and all of that kind of stuff before they could actually do that very kind of ministry.
Yeah, I'm sure that their restrictions were pretty tight on some of the stuff that they had to do.
Of course, it all had to be handicap accessible, and for these students to stay in what we call apartment rooms there on campus, they had to make them accessible that way, and it took a while to get up to the codes and the standards. But the thing about it is that when we first started going there, when I say we, mission teams, 10 years ago, there was no place for the mission teams to even stay. They were staying in the rooms that were going to be used for the students who were blind, so they had to actually build mini cabins away from the property that the mission teams stay in. So now they're all finished and up and running, and I think at this point it's enough functional that teams that come in now can do extremely more huge work than just getting the property prepared for the ministry. But I will say the most interesting is that you don't go and do the ministering to the students, because this gentleman who's blind can reach more blind people because they trust him, because they know he too is blind like they are. Mm-hmm. And I will share this story. I know I'm probably talking a lot, but I'm going to share this story too. This gentleman, his name is Mike Gates, and he's 52 years old. And he has a friend who told him that there's a new procedure that they could go in with some electrodes in the back of his brain that would come to some glass size, and that he could possibly see again if he wanted to, and that he would pay for the entire operation. And Mike told him, I can't do that, because then I don't think I would gain the trust of my blind students who come. So he chose to stay blind so he could minister to blind students.
Wow.
And to me, that's fascinating.
It is. It really is. Just recently, and when I say recent, last few years, we've seen different programs come to light to where physically challenged people, blind people, different ones, wheelchairs, can actually fish and hunt and do things like that. And I'm glad you explained how they hunt, because I'm sitting here wondering how they go to shoot a deer or how they go shoot a turkey. But so it's like a two-person process then.
It is. They still have to have someone else to be their eyes for them, but they've even got an archery range in the top of this barn, and they can shoot arrows, from a bow, although they have to be told how close they got to the target. But they still want to be active in doing those things that everyone else does.
Yeah.
But the amazing part of this ministry is that while he's got them on that campus, he is able to do Bible studies, and he's able to share with them, even though they've got a challenged handicap, he tells them they can still live a full functional life, and that's why he's doing this very thing. One of the most challenging things that we've done thus far on this campus, and we were part of that this year, in order for the students who come to hunt without a license, the property has to be completely fenced in. And so trying to fence in on the mountains, 900 acres, has been a challenge over the last 15 years. They're almost finished with it. We did probably one of the hardest sections, next to the hardest. We actually put up probably about 1,000-foot fence on about a 60% incline of a mountain, and we had to cut the tree line out first. That's where all that 13 wicker wood came from. And that was a challenge, but the completion of it is now that where we started our fencing to hook up to where they left off, where we started, it's a cliff that goes down. So I don't know if we're able just to throw a rope and connect it to make it, considered a fenced-in area. But at the same time, it also allows the wildlife to stay within the bounds too.
Right.
But now that's a challenge. But it was a great feeling, because we know the purpose of why we was doing this. Most mission trips that I've ever been on, you go door to door and you go hand out Bibles and tracts and you try to witness, and I'm all for that because I love to win people to the Lord. But when you go here, you're preparing a ministry so that this individual, Brother Mike Gates, can actually do the ministering, and it is phenomenal.
Well, I think that we need to realize that there are a lot of ways to minister. And even though that's difficult for some people to understand, there are a lot of different ways that a person can minister. And
well, when you look at the scriptures, basically we're seed planters, and God gets all the glory through all of it, of course. And I think that when we go on a mission trip, we want to see immediate results. But this one is, I know that you won't see it at all, but you know it's coming, because we know that there's a huge, he keeps up record of how many people's won to the Lord, and the majority of them that come on campus receive Christ. One story was about an elderly gentleman, and he was 80 years old, and he went on the campus, and they tell us not to go out on the paths alone, 800 acres or 900, in the mountains. He did, and he got lost out in the mountains. And once the group started going looking for him, he had made stone arrows on the ground so he could see where he was backtracking and so forth. But he said while he was out there, he found Christ while he was out there. So, I mean, all things are possible with Christ.
Right. Well, that's so true, and it's so interesting, the different ways. I know that talking about not knowing or not seeing immediate results for years, 15, 17 years, we had a booth at the Broward County Fair where we gave away water and gospel tracts. And yes, we had some people come to know the Lord there on the fairgrounds, but nowhere near the tracts that we gave out. Jeanetta has always made the statement that we've given out so many tracts, she just wants to meet some of them when we get to heaven.
Well, I tell you what, so everyone that's won to the Lord, they take a picture of them there. And then, of course, when you're sitting down with Mike, he wants you to see the pictures.
Right.
And then when you start looking at pictures, he says, "Who are you looking at?" Because their names aren't. You tell him, and then he tells that story about where he wanted, and it's great.
Yeah.
And I got tickled. You got to understand that we wasn't really prepared to work for a blind individual. And so we're in this room and he's doing the orientation, and the first question he asked was, he says, "How many of you know how to use a chainsaw?" And about 15 of them raised their hands. He says, "I can't see your hands." And he had to tell us to count off how many there were. But he jokingly about that because he realizes that we've just not really fully comprehended with that if you're not around folks that are that way. But he's a great individual that has a heart and a passion to winning souls. And I don't know, I mean, I've got faith, yes, but that was an overwhelming challenge when you know that you've been given 900 acres to do this on and can't see what you're doing.
And can't see it.
And has never seen it, but he visions it in his mind. He sure can. But it is a beautiful property. And folks come up there and they do tremendous landscaping because you can do all kinds of things on your mission trip. It isn't just making the deer stands. I mean, it's doing landscaping and so forth and fencing in the property and whatever. But yeah, it's a great ministry.
Well, isn't it sad for the person who can see and has no vision, though?
That's exactly right. And I tell you what was really so funny is that we took this team for the first time and they had 25 individuals. And so we're all ready to go. Whatever it is, we can't wait. And so when he's doing the orientation, he says, "We're only going to start at 8 o'clock and we'll quit about 12 and we'll start back about 2 and stop about 5, something like that." And it was like 5 o'clock, everybody's up and ready to go, and like, why ain't we going so fast? Why are we doing it now? But I will tell you, it's so funny, by the time 1 o'clock came on the first day, it's like, how many more hours do we have left? Because you're in 100-degree weather on the side of a mountain, cutting down trees, putting up a fence. And you always have a break in a mission trip, just to get some free time and be alone with God. And they said, "No, let's work through that." When we first got there, and they said, "When's that break coming?" That was like, man, it was like work.
Minds.
But I tell you what's refreshing is knowing that you've made a difference and watching their faces when you pull off of the property and the tears, that you've came and made a difference for them. It's just unbelievable. Because last year they didn't have enough wood cut, and they got about January and they had to do without. I mean, he can't go out in the snow and cut wood,
No.
So we made sure they had plenty of wood this coming winter. Sure did.
That's great. Well, Tim, we're going to take a break here. We are halfway through, believe it or not. It goes quick.
It does.
When you're talking about it. But we're glad you're with us today sharing, and we're going to be sharing some more when we come back. So you stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
We didn't have much to give then. So when they showed up firing them mean looks around the place and staring us down on prices, well, I was angry. Didn't seem to bother my father, though. He had me load another bushel of apples in their trunk. I learned later on that this family was in need.
The greatest gift we give, it's in our heart, what we believe, the way we live.
Caring for others. Pass it on.
Welcome back. I'm Jim Pollard, your co-host with my wife Jeanetta, and our guest today is Brother Tim Cole. Brother Tim is Director of Missions for the Blood River Baptist Association. We're talking about ways that you can be involved in mission work throughout the state or throughout the world. A lot of opportunities are there. And I know that a lot of you would love to do it. Man, we've talked to people, Jeanette and I have, and they say, "Oh, I'd love to do that, but I don't think I could." But you can. I mean, just like Brother Tim was talking about, if you're going to operate chainsaw, you can be involved, right?
Absolutely.
And a lot of people out there that say, well, I don't know how to witness. Well, witness with your chainsaw, right?
That's exactly how they do it. And whatever you can do, use the talent God's give you.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I think that's all he asks, is that we just use the talent that he's given to us. I mean, your talent's different from mine and everybody else's, and he don't want us trying to do somebody else's. He's got
You
something
see, there was
in store.
one lady who wanted to go on the mission trip, and most of the things that we were going to do was going to be from tractors and chainsaws and so forth. She says, I'm an office person. She says, I do inside air conditioning work kind of thing. But his wife is the administrator of it, and she needed some help in the office, and therefore this lady went in there, put in some new computer programs, and probably did even more than we did with the chainsaws.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, there's a place.
For everyone. I mean, you got to have a meal, so somebody's got to cook. So
Right.
if you know how to cook, you can go with us.
But everything is not physical. I tell people there's like 3 steps to mission trip. You have to have someone who's willing to go and can. You have to have somebody who's going to help finance them or give them what they need to go. And prayer. Prayer is a big thing.
Well, and I'll share this too, Jeanetta. You know, we're welcome for anybody to go with us on our mission trips, and we're going back again this summer to the Christ Outreach for the Blind, which is in Mount Vernon, Kentucky. And the cost of the trip is only $100 a person, and that pays for your lodging, pays for your food, pays for the gas that goes up there. And anybody that wants to go with us, all they got to do is give me a call, and we will plug them in, and you can go with us and have the biggest time of your life.
Well, I know we've got your name and address up there. Give them your telephone number, how they get in touch with
The
you.
phone number to call me is area code 270-437-4203, and that's at the office there in Hardin, Kentucky.
Okay. Well, and we just need to make these opportunities available for people because, like I said, there are a lot of people that would love to. And I think too many times people wait to be asked rather than volunteering. Well, we're asking and you volunteer. So that's basically what they need to do.
Yeah, I think actually they're more afraid to call me because if they call me, they're going to get plugged in. They're going to be doing something because there's more than we can do at this point because we've got not only this trip, but we've got 6 other trips that's planned for this coming summer.
Yeah.
Or next summer.
Why don't you tell us where
Well,
those are?
We're going to go to Haiti, and it's a neat, interesting thing about Haiti is that we're going to go help build houses. They're 10 by 12 houses, block houses, but you're helping the Haitians learn how to build themselves, so you share the gospel to them. But I've been told that the community comes and huddles around while you're building it, and you got an opportunity to share the gospel to them too, as well as doing Bible school for the kids that's there. Then we're going to go to Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska. And most of the places that we go to is in small areas of poverty-stricken places, and we're going in there and taking clothes and food and so forth, and then sharing about Jesus as well. And then, of course, we have our Sawyersville trip, which is in eastern Kentucky, and then we always go to Oneida in eastern Kentucky. Then we've got one that's called Wilmington, Delaware, and it's a new church plant, and it's in an area that is only Baptist church within 17-mile radius.
Wow.
And so they're only got 20 members so far, and they're wanting to get out there and build their church up, and so we're going to go out there also this summer. One of the things that we got coming up that I would like to share with that anyone's welcome to be a part of is our Frida Harris Toy Drive. And that's in Lookout, Kentucky, in eastern Kentucky. And Frida Harris was an elderly lady who loved children in the community. And what she did was she started having 1 or 2 children to come into her home, and she shared Bible stories. Well, they'd go out and tell their friends, and she had 10 or 12 show up. And next thing you know is she had 50 and 60 kids coming to her house for Bible stories. When Miss Frida passed away, they started and erected a building for the purpose of the kids in the community. And one of the things they do is supply toys for their Christmas. There are 1,400 kids who, as our association tries to supply those toys for those kids. The thing is last year we collected only 760 toys, which is what you technically say half a toy for a child. I'd love to see us at least get 2, toys, or even 3 as far as that goes, but at least 2 for every student, every child. So that would be 2,800 toys if we could get it. $10 toys, they have to be new toys, and if you want to send them to the association and bring them by, that'd be great. If you want to make a donation financially and put on the check that you send to the Blood River Baptist Association, just down in the memo, put Frida Harris Toy Drive, and we'll go out and get those toys, and bring them to the association. But I know it's a huge thing because I know there's a lot of kids who don't have Christmas, and so therefore we want to be their Santa Claus, You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Well, that's a tremendous ministry. And again, we've talked about how that people in this area, yes, we have poverty in this area also, but people don't realize the magnitude of it in certain pockets and areas, particularly in our state.
Well, Jim, I can tell you, since you've mentioned that, we do everything locally the same way we do outside in Eastern Kentucky and other states. We have a program called WIN, and that stands for Widows or Widowers in Need. And if they need some home repairs and they're on a fixed income, we have a group of men that goes out and fix roofs, they fix walls and floors, and all, again, just call the association. We'll put you on our list and we'll get to you when we can, So there's all kinds of things that if anybody's interested in ministry, all they have to do is give me a call and we can plug them in somewhere.
You'll give them lots to do, huh?
Yeah, that's what I said. If you don't want to do anything, don't call me. It's simple.
Well, and that is to me ministry, that people are willing to go out and do things to help other people with their home, with their feeding, with Christmas, with whatever the occasion is, that they're willing to go out and do that. I know that early on in my ministry, one of the big topics was the social gospel or the social ministry. And I didn't fully understand it back then when I was in my early 20s, and what they were doing. And I come to learn that it sure is hard to witness to somebody whose stomach is doubled up and closed because they're so hungry.
Well, let me just share you, and I call them God stories. We went on our mission trip this past summer to Eastern Kentucky, and we had a group that said that the only thing he knew to do was to grill hamburgers. And I said, all right, we'll start grilling hamburgers. He took a little grill with him last year, and he called his ministry Grilling for God. And but what he noticed was he had more people to feed than the little grill that he could use. So he came back to our association and said, I need a bigger grill. And we ended up getting a grill that was going to cost us about $1,800, but sharing the story to the individual building it only cost us $400, which I thought was phenomenal. But let me tell you the story. While they were in Eastern Kentucky, Pike County had the flood. So they said, we need some food out there right away. So needless to say, they done what they could to take this grill out there. And while they were grilling for these folks, it's strictly it's free because we're just sharing Jesus.
Right.
But these folks wouldn't take the food because they were wealthy enough that they didn't want to take a handout, so to speak. So we said, well, if you want to donate, then you just put your money in this jar to this ministry. Well, we've been looking at a trailer to put this big grill on because it's a heavy, and it's going to cost us $1,100. We didn't have the money for it, but we just trusted God. When we came back from that trip and we looked in this jar and we counted out this money, can you imagine how much money was in there? $1,100. So we got us a trailer to haul it on. So we got a Grilling for God ministry going on now. And if anybody needs to use that to grill at whatever function they may be, it's there on a first come, first served basis. That's right.
Well, there's so many ways that we can minister out there today and so many things that we can do, and I just think it's exciting. It's always exciting to see somebody, some church, some organization being involved in it and doing it.
I think what we do is that we actually look for it. The Bible study, that it tells us, get on board with God. He's already at work, find where He's at. Because we send care packages to our soldiers on a regular basis. We do snack packs for the students in schools when they get home after school that don't have supper. We provide that. We're looking to meet those needs like Jesus did. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're here, and that's why we do what we do.
Well, I've always said that Jesus was always where the crowds were.
Sure.
And He was outside. Most of the time that we hear of His ministry or His work, it's outside the confines of the quote-unquote physical church.
Right.
It's out where the people are.
Exactly, and that's what we've done. One of the things and how we've came across all of these ministries, by the way, is that there was a group of individuals that were to take out us DOMs, Directors of Missions, to see where these places are from the Kentucky Baptist Convention, and it was amazing. He took 5 or 6 of us on this trip, and he said to us this, he said, now, I know that when we get to this first place, you're all going to say that's where we need to go. But he says when we go to the second place I show, you're going to say the same thing, that's where we need to go. So anyway, we said, no, we won't do that. Well, let me tell you, every place we went to, yeah, we need to come here. He showed us 7 places in just Eastern Kentucky alone in the 2 days we were there. But let me share with you what was amazing for us. I'm thinking if there's 7 places that needs this ministry, how can we break that down in just one place for next year? So my mission team got together, and here's what I told them. We just need to pray about it and come back to a table, and let's all write on a piece of paper where we feel God's leading us to go. So we all did that, and when I opened up every one of those sheets of paper, it was that one place. And that was at that time Hazel Green, Kentucky, and that's a ministry in itself. And it's similar to the rest of the others, but I'm thinking God knows where He wants us to be placed, and we need to trust Him and go and do that very thing.
Right. Well, it's just, again, there's so many places out there, and especially in eastern Kentucky, but they are everywhere. I want to remind our people also about the Frida Harris Toy Drive, especially. And they can get in touch with you at the office. At
the office, the address that you see, this mail us a letter, whatever, or even we got a website.
Okay.
I don't know if that's on there, but the website is Blood River Association at mchsi.com, I think. So .org. Well, anyway, call the office and I'll get you that address.
All right. Well, because that's important that that people realize that they can take part.
Oh, and we want everybody to participate. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, if you can feel my heart through this program, I'd like to see our children get 2,800 toys this year, 2 of them apiece, you know.
I always say if everybody would just do something, you know.
Well, and you think about it, you know, if they want to be a part of ministry and they can't go to eastern Kentucky and put a fence on the side of a mountain, if they have $10 that God's given them that they wonder what they can use it for His glory, if you'll just get a Barbie doll or a little truck of some kind, or even just give us that $10, you're going to put a smile on a little kid's face that otherwise would never have been there at Christmas. Because I'm going to tell you, if we only did 760 toys for 1,400 kids, somebody didn't get something last year.
That's right.
You know.
Yeah.
And so it's a big task, but nothing's too big for God.
No.
That's right.
Well, Brother Tim, we're out of time, and we're glad that you could be with us today. And our guest today has been Brother Tim Cole, who's Director of Missions for the Blood River Baptist Association. Get in touch with him. I'm sure there's a way that you can get involved with some of the ministers that he's been involved with there, the toy drive or whatever. It's really important, so we want to encourage you to do that. We also want to encourage you to be back next week, because we'll have another show, another guest, be talking about something else going on in the area. And remember, always use it or lose it.
Can't see as well as I used to. Can't run as far or as fast. Sometimes I think that the old me is becoming exactly that. But when I start thinking of all I don't have, that's when I tell poor me Beethoven was 50 and deaf as a post when he wrote his Ninth Symphony. And he'd say, go with what you got, start from where you are, give it your best shot, keep reaching for that star. Get in the race, keep your own pace, keep moving and